When people think of pro wrestlers, they often imagine muscles, intensity, and high-octane showdowns. But there's another factor that keeps audiences glued to the screen: the giants. These men aren't just tall, they look like they walked straight out of a myth, making everything around them seem strangely small. In today's video, Wrestling Sphere takes you through 20 wrestlers with unbelievable physiques, so incredible you might find yourself asking, do they really exist? Get ready, because what you're about to see will leave you completely awestruck from the very first glance. Number 20. Giant Gonzalez. The moment Giant Gonzalez stepped into the ring, the first thing anyone felt was sheer awe. Standing at an unbelievable 8 feet tall, 2.44 meters, he didn't just tower over other wrestlers of his time. He was taller than any athlete to ever appear in WWE history. His presence made people look up in disbelief, even questioning whether he was real. Born Jorge Gonzalez in Argentina, he didn't initially pursue wrestling. Instead, he aimed for a career in professional basketball. In 1988, he was drafted by the Atlanta Hawks into the NBA. With his extraordinary frame, the team hoped Gonzalez would become their secret weapon. However, health issues related to hormonal disorders prevented him from playing at a high level for long. Leaving basketball behind, he stepped into a different spotlight, that of pro wrestling. Gonzalez debuted in WCW as El Gigante, and quickly squared off against legends like Ric Flair. But it was in 1993, during his shocking appearance at the Royal Rumble under the name Giant Gonzalez, that the world truly took notice. Despite not being an official entrant, he stormed in and eliminated The Undertaker in a fierce and unexpected interference. His wrestling career was short-lived, but the image of this towering figure in a bizarre muscle bodysuit remains unforgettable. Gonzalez retired in 1995, returning to Argentina, where he battled diabetes and kidney failure until his passing. Though his time in wrestling was brief, his presence was impossible to ignore, a true giant in every sense. Number 19. Andre the Giant. Standing next to Andre the Giant, you'd feel like you'd shrunk. Andre wasn't just massive in size. He was one of the most iconic figures professional wrestling has ever known. Born André René Roussimoff in France, he had acromegaly, a condition that caused his body to grow continuously. By adulthood, he stood at 7 feet 4 inches, 2.24 meters, and weighed over 500 pounds, 226 kilograms. His sheer size didn't just make heads turn, it gave him an almost mythical aura of invincibility. Andre began wrestling in the 1960s and quickly gained international fame by overpowering opponents without relying on gimmicks or tricks. But when he arrived in WWE during the 70s and 80s, his stardom reached a whole new level. Nicknamed the Eighth Wonder of the World, Andre lived up to the title. He remained undefeated for nearly 15 years, becoming a nightmare for anyone who dared face him. His most legendary moment came at WrestleMania 3 in 1987, when he faced Hulk Hogan in front of over 93,000 fans. The moment Hogan lifted the Giant and slammed him to the mat became one of wrestling's most iconic visuals. But Andre's massive size came with a steep cost. Everyday life was a constant struggle. Chairs weren't big enough, doors were too narrow, and even drinking glasses didn't fit his hand. By the early 90s, his health had seriously declined. Still, even in death, Andre remains the standard by which all wrestling giants are measured. He wasn't just a big man, he was the giant. Number 18. Hastax Calhoun. How can someone weighing over 600 pounds, 270 kilograms, be remembered as the model of a gentle giant? The answer lies in Hastax Calhoun, the barefoot behemoth in denim overalls, always wearing a warm, unassuming smile. Born William D. Calhoun in Texas, he was massive not only in size but in spirit. From his earliest days in the ring, tipping the scales at over 600 pounds, Calhoun left crowds stunned. But what truly made fans love him wasn't just his size, it was the kind heart behind his intimidating exterior. Every time he appeared, he wore his signature denim overalls and an oversized horseshoe around his neck, a symbol uniquely his. His country charm and simplicity made him instantly relatable. His wrestling style, built around crushing moves like body splashes and sit-downs, may have looked basic, but when Calhoun used them, they became unstoppable weapons. From the 1950s to the late 70s, Hastax was a fixture across American wrestling, especially in tag team bouts. Though not as agile as smaller wrestlers, he had a rare gift for storytelling through physical performance, a skill that made every second of his matches compelling. Outside the ring, Calhoun was known for his generosity, kindness, and deep respect for fans. In a world where size often equates to fear, Hastax proved the opposite, that a giant could also be the most lovable hero of them all. Number 17. Paul White, Big Show. No one embodies the image of the modern-day giant quite like Paul White, better known to the world as Big Show. Standing 7 feet tall, 2.13 meters, and weighing over 400 pounds, 180 kilograms, he's not just big. He's the living definition of dominance. Born with acromegaly, Paul's body grew at an uncontrollable pace. By his early teens, he was already taller than most of his teachers. Fortunately, timely surgery halted the unchecked growth, but by then, he was already destined to become one of the most physically imposing athletes in wrestling history. Big Show began his career in WCW in 1995 under the name The Giant, and made an instant impact by defeating Hulk Hogan for the World Heavyweight Championship in his debut match, something no one had ever done before. By 1999, he joined WWE and quickly became a cornerstone of the company. From World Championships to Tag Team Gold, Hardcore to Intercontinental titles, there isn't a belt Big Show hasn't held. But what truly sets him apart is his adaptability. He could be a cold-blooded villain striking fear into opponents one moment, and the next, a lovable giant sharing comedic moments with John Cena that had entire arenas laughing. In an industry where fans quickly tire and gimmicks fade fast, Big Show remained relevant through intelligence, versatility, and unmatched stage presence. He's not just a giant, he's a true artist in the world of professional wrestling. Number 16. The Great Khali. Who says wrestling is just for the West? The Great Khali, the giant from India, shattered that idea with every thunderous step he took in a WWE ring. Born Dalip Singh Rana, Khali was once a police officer in Punjab, known across the region for his unmatched strength. But once he entered WWE, he transformed into a true monster. Standing 7 feet 1 inch, 2.16 meters, tall, weighing over 350 pounds, 160 kilograms, and carrying the aura of a fearless warrior. Khali debuted in WWE in 2006 and immediately set his sights on one of the company's biggest icons, The Undertaker. It was a bold move, not for the faint of heart. But Khali didn't just try, he delivered. In 2007, he made history by becoming the first Indian to win the World Heavyweight Championship. His finishing move, the Punjabi plunge, wasn't flashy, but once he hit it, his opponents were done. On screen, Khali embodied raw, unstoppable power. Off-screen, however, fans were surprised to discover his warm personality, sharp sense of humor, and even his talent for acting in Bollywood films. Beyond wrestling, Khali went on to found Continental Wrestling Entertainment, a wrestling school in India where he trains the next generation. From a small-town police officer to a world champion, Khali is more than just a giant. He's a living symbol of pride for millions of fans. Number 15. Amos. When people talk about WWE giants, it's usually in reference to legends of the past. But then came Amos, as if WWE had rewritten its history right before our eyes. Standing at 7 feet 3 inches, 2.21 meters, and weighing over 400 pounds, 180 kilograms, Amos enters the ring like a living skyscraper. What's even more shocking is how agile he is, moving with a speed and fluidity that seems impossible for someone his size. Born Talyalope Jordan Omogbin in Lagos, Nigeria, Amos has a strong athletic background. He played college basketball at South Florida and Morgan State, developing elite strength and explosive movement. WWE saw that potential and wasted no time signing him, not just for his size, but for his undeniable presence. Amos first appeared as AJ Styles' bodyguard, and even just standing still, he sent chills down spines. But he quickly stepped into the spotlight. At WrestleMania 37, Amos made his in-ring debut and immediately captured the Raw Tag Team titles. It was a quick victory, but one fans wouldn't forget. Since then, he's gone toe-to-toe with major names like Bobby Lashley, Braun Strowman, and Brock Lesnar. And the key point? He didn't get steamrolled. Amos held his ground, proving he's not just another big man, he's a serious threat to anyone who underestimates him. Proud of his Nigerian roots, Amos is leading a new era of giants, modern, dangerous, and impossible to ignore. Number 14. Braun Strowman. Some people walk onto the stage. Braun Strowman storms in and shakes the whole arena. With eyes blazing and power to match, he's a giant who commands attention the moment he appears. Born Adam Scherr, Braun didn't enter WWE quietly. He burst onto the scene like a storm. Standing 6 feet 8 inches, 2.03 meters, and weighing around 382 pounds, 173 kilograms, he brought with him the brute force honed during his days as a professional strongman, where pulling trucks and lifting monstrous weights was just part of the routine. When WWE gave him the spotlight, fans didn't just see a big man, they saw a wrecking machine. Starting out as part of the Wyatt family, Strowman left a lasting impression with his silent but deadly presence. But it wasn't until he broke out as a solo act that the real destruction began. He tossed Roman Reigns around like a rag doll, flipped over an ambulance, tore apart rings with sheer power, no tricks, just raw force. That's why he earned the nickname, the Monster Among Men. At WrestleMania 36, Strowman captured the Universal Championship, proving he wasn't just built to destroy, he was built to dominate. Then came 2022. After being released by WWE, he made a shock return. The music hit. The lights flared. The crowd erupted. It was a comeback that gave fans goosebumps. Braun Strowman doesn't need to say much. He shows up, tears through everything in his path, and leaves an impact that echoes. That's how a giant builds a legacy. Number 13. Giant Silva. Some people are simply unforgettable the moment you see them. Giant Silva is one of those people. Standing 7 feet 2 inches, 2.18 meters, weighing over 380 pounds, 172 kilograms, and with a frame that made every entranceway look too small. Born Paulo Cesar da Silva, he was once a professional basketball player for Brazil. In fact, he represented his country at the 1988 Olympic Games, a rare achievement in the world of professional wrestling. But instead of sticking with basketball, Silva made a surprising turn in the late 90s, stepping into the world of pro wrestling. He joined the WWF as part of the Oddities, a bizarre and eccentric group known more for chaos than championship gold. What made Silva stand out wasn't just his size. He had a unique energy, cheerful, positive, and approachable. He didn't need to shout or act menacing to capture attention. Just being there was enough. After WWE, Silva took things a step further by stepping into the world of MMA. And he didn't just do it for show, he faced real competition, battling fighters like Akebano and Choi Hongman in Japan. He didn't win many matches, but no one could forget the sight of a man built like a titan entering a cage to face elite fighters. For Silva, success wasn't measured in titles, it was in the eyes glued to him every time he appeared. And that's the quiet strength of a true giant. Number 12. Robert Maillet. Not every giant relies solely on size. Some step into the ring with an aura that makes others instantly wary, and Robert Maillet, known in the wrestling world as Kurgan, is a perfect example of that. Standing 6 feet 10 inches, 2.08 meters, with a hulking frame and razor-sharp glare, Maillet emerged during WWE's chaotic and personality-driven Attitude Era. Yet even in a sea of wild characters, Kurgan found a way to stand out. He began his WWE career with the Truth Commission, a cold, militaristic faction known for their strict demeanor. But Kurgan truly gained popularity after joining the Oddities, a bizarre, fun-loving group that brought laughter and weirdness to the ring. On one hand, he could crush opponents with his brutal Iron Claw finisher. On the other, he could be seen dancing and goofing off under pulsating lights and party music. Strangely enough, fans loved both sides of him. After leaving WWE, Maillet didn't fade into the background. Instead, he successfully pivoted to acting, and even if you don't know his name, you've likely seen him. He's the towering warrior from 300, or the massive brute trading punches with Robert Downey Jr. in Sherlock Holmes. From a quiet giant in the ring to an imposing figure on the big screen, Robert Maillet has carved out a career that's memorable, surprising, and impossible to ignore. Number 11. Nathan Jones. Some wrestling careers burn like fireworks, brilliant, fast, and gone in a flash. Nathan Jones is one of those stories. At 6 feet 11 inches, 2.11 meters, and 330 pounds, 150 kilograms, of carved muscle, Jones entered WWE looking like a main event monster in the making. But real life doesn't always follow the script. Born in Australia, Jones spent years in prison for armed robbery. It was in one of the country's most feared prisons, Bago Road Jail, where he earned the nickname the Colossus of Bago Road. That name stuck with him ever since. After turning his life around, he got into bodybuilding and eventually made his way into pro wrestling. WWE quickly signed him, viewing him as a breakout star. The high point came when he was paired with The Undertaker for WrestleMania 19, a role reserved only for the most promising. But things changed. The tag team match became a solo contest, and Jones was only briefly involved in the finish. Behind the scenes, he struggled with movement, lacked in-ring experience, and couldn't adapt to WWE's intense pace. He left the company shortly after. Still, Jones didn't disappear. He transitioned to film and found his true spotlight. From Troy to Mad Max, Fury Road, to The Protector with Tony Jaa, Jones proved he was still a warrior, just fighting on a different stage. Number 10. Martin Ruan, Giant Hastax. Who truly deserves the title of a real wrestling giant? Look no further than Martin Ruan, better known as Giant Hastax, a walking fortress and an unstoppable force in every sense of the word. Standing 6 feet 11 inches, 2.11 meters, tall and weighing over 680 pounds, 310 kilograms, Hastax made the ring tremble with every step. He wasn't just a wrestler, he was a living symbol of power, a human mountain that intimidated anyone who dared face him. Born in Camberwell in 1946 to an Irish family, Ruan moved to Salford at a young age. Before wrestling, he worked in physically demanding jobs, construction worker, nightclub bouncer, roles well suited to his immense frame and raw strength. His wrestling career began in 1967 under the name Luke McMasters, but it wasn't until the 1970s, when he became Giant Hastax, that he truly made waves. His legendary feud with Big Daddy became one of the most iconic rivalries in British wrestling history. Hastax didn't stop in Europe. He brought his massive presence to North America, wrestling in Canada as the Loch Ness Monster, and later appearing in WCW as a member of the menacing Dungeon of Doom. Outside the ring, Ruan was deeply private, religious, and devoted to his family. Married at 17, he was a father to 3 sons and remained committed to his values. Giant Hastax wasn't just a wrestler, he was a towering figure of memory, legacy, and a bygone era that fans will never forget. Number 9. Big Cass. It's rare to see someone nearly 7 feet tall move like a man half his size. But Big Cass, real name William Morrissey, defies expectations. He's living proof that giants can move with the speed and grace of a jungle cat. Standing 6 feet 10 inches, 2.08 meters, and weighing over 270 pounds, 122 kilograms, Cass didn't just have the size, he had presence. From the moment he stepped into WWE, he was pegged as a breakout star. Strong, charismatic, and perfectly in sync with his partner Enzo Amore. Together, the duo took NXT and the main WWE roster by storm. Every entrance felt electric, loud, funny, and full of swagger. But the spotlight isn't always kind. Cass eventually faced personal struggles, injuries, and mental health battles that led to his departure from WWE. It could have been the end. But it wasn't. He came back, stronger, calmer, and more dangerous than ever. Rebranded as W. Morrissey, and now known as Big Bill in AEW, he's once again proving himself against top-tier competition. Every time he delivers a big boot or slams down an opponent with a chokeslam, it's a statement. This giant hasn't disappeared, he's evolved. No longer the lanky newcomer, Big Cass has grown into a true warrior, one who's faced the toughest battles, both inside and outside the ring. Number 8. Kane. Imagine this, a 7-foot, 2.13 meters, 320-pound, 145 kilograms, giant wearing a black and red mask, emerging through a cloud of smoke as flames shoot up around him. He raises his arms, and the entire arena falls silent. That's not a horror movie scene, that's Kane. A living nightmare, and one of WWE's most iconic figures of fear. Glenn Jacobs debuted in WWE in 1997 in a way no one would forget, tearing the steel door off Hell in a Cell to confront The Undertaker. From that moment on, it was clear, Kane wasn't just another big man. He was darkness personified. The story of Kane and his long-lost brother Undertaker became one of WWE's greatest sagas. But Kane's career didn't exist in someone else's shadow. He went toe-to-toe with the biggest names in WWE history, from Stone Cold Steve Austin and Triple H to John Cena. With his monstrous physique, many thought he'd be limited to the role of a brute. Kane proved otherwise. He was agile, versatile, and even showcased comedic timing, especially in his tag team run with Daniel Bryan. To stay relevant for over 20 years is almost unheard of, but Kane made it look effortless. And the biggest twist of all? When he finally took off the mask, stepped out of the ring, and became the mayor of Knox County, Tennessee. From setting rings on fire to running a local government, only Kane could pull off both. Number 7. The Undertaker. How do you stay on top in a business that changes overnight? How do you get an entire crowd to rise to their feet, without saying a word, for over 3 decades? The answer is one name: The Undertaker. Mark Calloway, standing 6 feet 10 inches, 2.08 meters, and weighing 300 pounds, 136 kilograms, was no ordinary wrestler. He became a myth, a presence, the immortal soul of WWE. From his 1990 debut, with the eerie toll of church bells and dim lights casting shadows, Undertaker made millions of fans shiver. He walked slowly, eyes rolled back, like he had stepped out of the afterlife. But behind the character was an elite athlete, agile, enduring, and a master of in-ring storytelling. He wasn't just a big man, he was a performer of the highest order. The crown jewel of his legacy? WrestleMania. A legendary 21-match undefeated streak at WWE's biggest event, with each bout a chapter in wrestling's grand epic, from brutal wars with Kane to masterpieces against Shawn Michaels, Triple H, and Brock Lesnar. He wasn't just the dead man, he was the one who redefined WWE with every era he passed through. When he lifted his hand, the lights went out. When the bell tolled, silence followed. Because when The Undertaker appeared, the world stood still. Number 6. Big John Studd. What kind of man dares to stand tall, look Andre the Giant in the eyes, and declare, "I'm the real giant"? The answer: Big John Studd, a powerhouse of pride and muscle during WWE's golden era. Standing 6 feet 10 inches, 2.08 meters, and weighing around 365 pounds, 165 kilograms, Studd wasn't just there to fill out the 1980s roster. He was a core part of it. With his stern expression, massive build, and unshakable presence, every one of his entrances commanded attention. His legendary feud with Andre the Giant lives on in wrestling history. The two giants represented opposite forces, battling for the right to be called the one true Titan. Their rivalry peaked at the very first WrestleMania, during the iconic $15,000 Body Slam Challenge. When Andre lifted Studd, something thought to be impossible, and slammed him to the mat, the crowd erupted. But that moment also confirmed one thing: Studd was no pushover. Only a true giant could make Andre's victory feel so monumental. Beyond Andre, Studd squared off with icons like Hulk Hogan, Jake the Snake Roberts, and King Kong Bundy. In 1989, he made a powerful comeback by winning the Royal Rumble, proving he still belonged at the top. Big John Studd wasn't just tall. He embodied pride, power, and the essence of an era when legends were forged through sweat, steel, and raw dominance. Number 5. Sid Yudi. When Sid Yudi, also known as Sid Vicious, Sid Justice, or Psycho Sid, stepped into the ring, the world seemed to hold its breath for just a moment. At 6 feet 9 inches, 2.06 meters, and over 300 pounds, 136 kilograms, of pure muscle, Sid brought an unsettling energy. He didn't need to shout or threaten. His burning stare and intense presence said it all. Every step Sid took felt like a warning. When he turned to deliver his signature powerbomb, no one dared to blink. His aura didn't come from flashy moves. It came from raw, primal force and the tension he carried like a predator in the ring. Sid wasn't the crowd-pleasing hero type. He was a storm, unpredictable, ferocious, and always leaving destruction behind. His career spanned every major promotion: WWE, WCW, even ECW, and everywhere he went, he left his mark. He held world championships, headlined WrestleMania, and lit up feuds with unmatched intensity. No one ever knew when Sid would snap, and that's exactly what made him so dangerous. Though his career had ups and downs, one thing remains clear: when Sid was in the ring, you couldn't look away. He proved that sometimes, madness is exactly what makes someone unforgettable. Number 4. Diesel, Kevin Nash. How does a giant manage to blend raw power, cool charisma, and razor-sharp intelligence? Kevin Nash, better known as Diesel, is the perfect answer. Standing 6 feet 10 inches, 2.08 meters, and weighing over 300 pounds, 136 kilograms, Nash wasn't just big. He exuded a sense of calm authority. When he walked to the ring with that slow, deliberate stride, piercing stare, and signature black gear, the crowd knew something serious was about to go down. In mid-90s WWE, Nash stood out as Diesel, the silent enforcer who rose to become world champion. No flash, no flair, just a devastating powerbomb, and the match was over. But what made Diesel truly special was his intelligence, his ability to read the crowd, control the moment, and deliver with precision. Whether backstage or front and center, Nash always gave the impression that he was fully in control. His career reached new heights when he left WWE and, alongside Scott Hall, co-founded one of the most influential factions in wrestling history, the NWO. Together with Hulk Hogan, they shook the foundation of WCW and turned the entire wrestling world upside down, edgier, more unpredictable, and more exciting than ever. Kevin Nash wasn't just a wrestling giant. He was the definition of cool, a man who didn't need to shout to be heard, because silence spoke louder when he was in the room. Number 3. Big Daddy. You don't have to be the tallest, the heaviest, or the strongest to become a national treasure. And Big Daddy, real name Shirley Crabtree, proved that in the most heartfelt way. Nearly 2 meters tall and weighing over 300 pounds, 136 kilograms, Big Daddy wasn't your typical modern-day warrior. But in 1970s and 80s British wrestling, he was its beating heart, the face of Saturday afternoon TV and a beloved hero to millions. With his snowy white hair, glittering robes, and booming confidence, Big Daddy didn't just enter the ring. He stepped into the homes and hearts of fans across the UK. Families gathered every weekend to watch him perform. Kids cheered his name. Adults applauded his victories. He wasn't just a wrestler, he was a national icon. Big Daddy's in-ring style was straightforward, brute strength, thunderous slams, and firm footwork. But what set him apart wasn't the technique, it was his magnetic presence. A simple wave, a smile, or a celebratory pose was enough to light up the crowd. His legendary rivalry with Giant Hastax was more than just a clash of titans. It was a cultural event etched in British wrestling history. Big Daddy didn't rely on intense rivalries or backstage drama. He brought joy, laughter, and warmth, perhaps the most valuable things any sport can offer. And though time has passed, the name Big Daddy still echoes, a symbol of kindness, charisma, and pure-hearted entertainment in a world of headlocks and haymakers. Number 2. Paul Bunyan, Max Palmer. What do you get when you combine a towering 7 feet 7 inches frame, a brief stop in the NBA, a short but unforgettable wrestling career, and an unexpected turn toward evangelism? You get Max Palmer, better known in the ring as Paul Bunyan. At 7 feet 7 inches, 2.31 meters, tall, Palmer wasn't just tall. He was a walking skyscraper among mortals. The moment he stepped into the ring, the crowd was stunned. Even next to already massive wrestlers, he made them look like kids. The size difference was so jarring that he didn't even need to throw a punch. Raising his arm was enough to send the crowd into a frenzy. Born in Mississippi, Palmer originally chased a basketball dream. He briefly played in the NBA, where his height dominated the paint, but the league's fast-paced nature demanded agility that his frame couldn't quite provide. So when he transitioned to pro wrestling, it finally felt like the right stage. Taking on the name Paul Bunyan, inspired by the legendary American lumberjack, Palmer quickly became a true spectacle. He didn't win fans with technical prowess, but that was never the point. People came not for headlocks, but for the sheer awe of witnessing something unreal. But Palmer surprised the world once more after leaving the ring. He devoted the rest of his life to ministry, using his unique presence to inspire faith, a dramatic shift, and a deeply human one. Number 1. Gary Robbins. How often do you meet someone who stands 7 feet 5 inches, slams opponents into the mat, and also plays bloodthirsty monsters on the big screen? Gary Robbins was living proof that you don't need to do much. Just show up, and the world will remember you forever. Nicknamed the Canadian Giant, Robbins was one of the most physically unforgettable men ever to come out of Canada. Born in Ontario, his size alone was surreal. Towering over 7 feet 4 inches, 2.26 meters, and weighing close to 380 pounds, 172 kilograms. When he walked down to the ring, it felt like a comic book character had come to life. Robbins made his mark in the 1980s and 1990s wrestling scene, often promoted as an unstoppable force. He didn't need fancy moves, just being there was enough. Opponents rarely aimed to win. Surviving a match or getting him to stumble was a badge of honor. But Robbins wasn't just a monster in the ring. He became a cult favorite in horror films, with eerie, unforgettable roles in movies like Humongous and Wrong Turn. He didn't need complex lines or dramatic plots. His sheer physical presence was enough to chill audiences. Gary Robbins was a true giant, not just in stature, but in impact. He proved that sometimes, just existing with that kind of presence is enough to become a legend. Who do you think is the most unbelievable giant on this list? If any of these names caught you off guard, don't forget to leave a comment, hit that like button, and subscribe to Wrestling Sphere, so you never miss another incredible story from the world of wrestling.